When I was talking with him on the phone, it sounded like he had a voice disguiser.
Live, we're live. Okay.
I am way up in the air here. Are you comfortable in there?
Superior to me, that's fine. This is the March 15, 2023 meeting of the Historic District Commission. I don't know where to look. Susan Prescott, Chair.
Virginia Lewis, Vice Chair.
Stanley Shalom, member.
Madeline Willett, member. Welcome. Let's get right to it. The first thing on the agenda, did everyone get it? Oh, I didn't even send the minutes out, did I? No, you did not. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. The first thing is critical correspondence, for which I really don't have any, except that I got a phone call from Northland Forest Products that they want to upgrade their old sign. So I talked with her and said, if you just paint it and, you know, keep it the same size, keep it in the same location with the same whatever, it's considered maintenance. And if she wants it bigger or moved or anything, she'll need to come in for a review. Okay?
Same placement?
Well, this is what she said. Okay. She said, that's what I told her. There were two scenarios. So if it stays in the same spot, same location, same size, I said you can change the color, you can whatever, but the same, change even the wording. I don't think they will. But if they want to do anything different, move it, make it bigger, whatever, we'll change the style of it, and they'll need a review. So I haven't heard back from her, and I drove by today and they haven't done anything to it. So that's all the correspondence I have, and we do have I have the minutes on my laptop, but I didn't forward them out to you, so we're gonna have to postpone that and vote on those next month, okay? As we all know, we had the elections yesterday, so even if Kevin St. James is still our selectman's rep, he is not here tonight. He told me last month he would be absent. We do not have a planning board rep yet as well. So we have Heritage Commission. Do we have any updates?
We do. We got snowed out last month. So we didn't have a meeting. I've been reporting on the National Register of Historic Places signs. That's all done, all completed, and they should be here any day now. I can't wait. I'm going to bring them to the meeting and hold them up because I'm so delighted that everybody is participating. 2 for the town, 2 for private spots, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. It's excellent. Yep. And then those will be installed by the road crew?
So the town ones will be installed by the road agent and his crew, and the Plains Cemetery is going to be by the entrance to the cemetery, and the library will, now the museum, but it says Nicholas Memorial Library because that's what it was called when it was on the National Register, will be on a flat fieldstone with a flat surface somewhere out front. It will not be marring the door or any part of the building.
Okay, nice.
And then
probably that committee will install it.
no, the town will install it, but the Church on the Plains, they're going to put it in their memory garden somewhere, and they're responsible for installing their own. And there is a commitment that they've signed that they will put it in a place where everyone can see it. And if they don't, then they will pay for the cost of the sign.
Oh, okay.
And the same with Eric Chinberg for the seminary, and he wants his on the building. And so that is designed a little differently for front mounting as opposed to rear mounting.
Perfect.
And he will be signing the same form.
Nice. Thank you.
They've been very careful about their money and how those will be treated. I think it's good.
Excellent. So we have one application You can look on with me if you want.
Sure.
And then,
Stanley, this is the application.
so Teresa, would you like to come to the microphone, please? She is continuing with her window replacement project and window/door swap. So would you walk us through what you sent us here? Sure. Thanks.
So the top portion is the continuation of what I think we had approved last October. We had it done in November, so between September to October. We replaced all of the first floor windows, and now we're just completing with the second and third floor. So same model, same make, everything remains the same. And this time for the second and third floor, no change in size, location. We had a couple small changes that we made on the first floor, but second floor is pretty straightforward.
So did you say the first floor
Is complete.
all done?
Yeah. And boy,
And then
it
what-
make a difference.
Did it?
Yeah, the wind isn't blowing.
I was just gonna say, when the wind and the snow has been blowing, you're probably noticing the difference.
We had our windows done and we thought the same thing, but there's no insulation in the front of our house, so we're still waiting for that part.
Yeah. The neighbors just went through that, so.
So these are the same windows that you used for the first?
Yep, exact same thing. Then the exterior trim will change, it all will remain. The old aluminum storms will be removed, just like they were for the downstairs. So that's the first part, and then the second part is just swapping out, there is a front door that's about 3/4 of the way back on the house on the side that faces the street, and that's gonna change to a window. We don't use that door, we use the one back by the garage, so just making the space more useful.
And it's the same kind of, it's the same
Yep,
style?
exact same window, so I mean, I essentially copied and pasted the one that's right next to it, so, the one that's 90 degree that faces the driveway, this will be the same size and location as what's there.
So you have 2/1 now, and you're putting 2/1 in.
Yep.
Perfect.
Remind me, is that real wood siding?
Everything, actually from that point, that little bump out forward is real wood siding. The kind of workshop garage that got added back maybe in the 70s, I can't remember when the permit was from, that's actually vinyl siding.
Okay.
Yep.
So underneath the window that's replacing the door will be your woody real wood?
Yep.
You want to write on it? I will, go ahead, I've got a broken pencil. Do you need another one? No, I got a pen, I'm good, I'm good.
Can't write today.
We've got a little bit on the plate.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Clarissa, I picked this up when Susan was away.
Oh, yep.
And I did not see any notice that you had paid the fee.
We have.
You have paid the fee.
Yep, I have the receipt, I could send, I don't have it on my person at this moment, but I can drop it.
I thought, because we would normally state with that receipt in your application. Okay, that would be great.
That would be good.
Yeah, sure.
You could probably just drop it in an envelope, at the desk down there, and then put it in my basket.
Perfect.
That would be all right.
Will do, yeah. I'll do it tomorrow.
I have no more questions. Do you have any questions?
You don't?
No, there's just the trim, the trim for the new window will match
It's the
the...
same, yeah, we'll just replace it inside, we're not gonna touch that trim on any of those.
And for where the door is, just replace to make
Yeah, we'll just
that.
match what's next to it. Yep.
Okay. All right, so all I'm looking for is a motion then.
I make a motion that we accept the proposal as presented for windows and replacing one door with a matching window.
It's made by Virginia. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Seconded by Madeline. Any more discussion on this?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Very good. No opposed. Okay.
That was easy. It was hard to get it together.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. So great to see you.
Here's to our non-drafty house. Yes. You're doing it faster than we have.
I want you to go on record that this is the last time I'm wearing this shirt that says just add snow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put this in the very bottom of the bottom drawer and wait till next winter.
Yes.
Good.
No more.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Take care.
Too bad we couldn't meet at your house, that would have been a lot of fun.
Good night. You want to hear this? Yes. Okay. And then I would like a copy back. I know it's, you guys want to pass in your,
If you're passing your copy,
pass in your other copies if you don't have to waste our ink on our printers. What are we passing? The handout that I just, yes.
Oh, because you already have one for your file.
Yeah, and one goes to town, to the residence, yes, so.
I put it all together with a certificate of approval.
Yes,
So that whole thing is stick together.
yeah. And I have a file on each property.
Oh, gosh. Wow,
So
good.
just by the address.
Okay.
So, okay. So that is done. Even though, applicant approval spreadsheet, follow-up by Virginia.
I did not finish my homework.
That is all right. I think it's an unusual meeting all
Yes,
together. Yeah.
I really think that's important to do, but there's been a lot on our plates, and between town business and shoveling.
Yes.
So I didn't get to that, but I will do that.
Yeah, no problem. We will kick that can down the street.
Okay.
I have also edged in here, discuss Article 12, which passed yesterday.
Right.
Which is a new ordinance or an additional language.
Yes.
Did you read that on your, when you voted did you vote yesterday?
I voted yesterday.
Yeah, you did. Sorry. So that passed, and we need to discuss a little bit about what the implications are, because that passed. And Virginia had mentioned that maybe it's a good time for the HDC to start like a positive PR campaign. And maybe get the word out.
So, I would like to say publicly that I was really disappointed that my letter that explained why the planning board itself, no one approved of this. Excuse me. So I wrote a letter to the editor in plenty of time. I know sometimes there isn't physical space for something to be printed in the newspaper because it gets busy around vote for me election time, but it didn't even make the electronic version. And that was an explanation of the presentation that you and I can't remember who else was there, to present why this was unnecessary. And Glenn Koppelman spoke up from the planning board, having been our rep. And so then even the person who submitted the warrant article didn't vote for it. So it's really unusual that it passed. And I feel it was really unfortunate that the explanation didn't get out there to the town. It looks as if it's going to make us be more responsible and less
Opinionated.
yes, what's the subjective, based on opinion or speculation. It makes it look as if that's going to hold our feet to the fire more. And when the planning board heard how we're appointed, how we're trained, how we function, and the fact that we haven't denied but one application in 3 years, was a explanation of why this isn't a good one. But the other part is the cost to the town. That anytime an expert is required, then we would have to pay for it. And we do not have that in our budget. One of the changes needs to be that our budget for legal or professional services needs to go way up. Now, we seldom deny and we seldom require an expert. The last time we had experts galore was for Hannaford, and they brought their own experts because they wanted to make their presentations. Sometimes people bring someone who has, who owns the business with the siding or solar panels. They bring a sample and we can see, but we've accepted the applicant bringing a sample or showing us things from a catalog, so we seldom require that. It appears, am I correct that the applicant can require this, or is it only if we require it?
If the HDC or parties at the HDC application level, other than the applicant, requires expert testimony or documentation to support the denial, they cannot require the applicant to be responsible for the generation.
Okay, so it's only if we require an expert.
Right.
That we would then have to pay for it.
Yes.
So, in the big picture, since we do very few denials, it probably wouldn't be a big expense. On the other hand, we need to be prepared for that so that we can pay for that if that's required.
Yep.
And so certainly that would be a budget item. But I think that some more PR for the public to understand how we function, how we're trained, the kind of training the town has given us, that we go to, that we have those resources, New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, all of the preservation and historic boards in the state of New Hampshire, et cetera, that, and the fact that we are appointed by the selectmen who consider us to be qualified to do this job.
Yep.
So the very first thing is the selectmen have made a decision that we're qualified to do the job.
Yes.
And then as a certified local government, thank you, we have to keep tabs on the number of hours we have of credits for education and training that we maintain each year. So I think the town needs to know more about that. And that won't take this away. I suppose in the future it could be removed. I just think it shows that people don't understand how we function.
Well, he admitted that he didn't understand how we function at the meeting.
That's right.
Which is very disappointing. He didn't write a retraction of his and explain that. Because I think the wording doesn't look official or legal, and I think it's going to muddy the waters and possibly put the town up for lawsuits for people that come out of town and try to take advantage of our town. Well, because we already do the things that they're saying to do. We already have ordinances, regulations that we work off of.
Yes.
It's already there.
Yes, in our ordinance and in our regulations. But the reason for denial of an application, this says, must be clearly documented and should be factual and verifiable reasons for denial. We have to write such a letter, and we have to send it to the applicant within a certain number of days of the decision. In a documented, registered letter goes to that applicant. So it isn't just, sorry, we deny you because we don't like it, goodbye. But there's a lot of steps that are already in the town or rules, town laws.
That's why I feel like we already do that today. That wording just muddies the water because it's very vague on what is actually has to happen, where we already do give legal denials when we give a denial. And when they're approved, there's very specific things that they have to do with, conditions. Thank you.
Right, so I usually type those up.
Yes.
And when there's a denial, just like when there's an approval, like tonight, we write the details down. Yes, this will be wood. Yes, this will be this way, this way. When there's a denial, I keep note of what those specific things are, and if it's one that's been really contentious, there have been some in the way past, I've had the town attorney look at them and see if this is adequate before sending them out.
Right.
So one of the things that I think would be important to do is for the town attorney to look at this and say, what's the impact on the HDC?
Right, okay, yes, definitely.
But I also think that the idea of some positive PR, some explanation would be good. And the other thing is that I think we could get more support from the Heritage Commission on the ways that we work together, what their goals are, their purpose and goals are, and how they match ours. Theirs is much broader in that they can suggest. They don't have a legal right to say you must do this. But they can suggest anything throughout the town, whereas we're limited just to HD1 and HD2. But they certainly, we've worked together, we've supported them, we've been on committees together. We certainly could get some PR support from them as well. Or maybe some of the people that have come and brought application to the board would like to make a comment about how they were treated. Did they feel like they were treated fairly and reasonably and oversee the project? And this is also one of the reasons why I think this spreadsheet of follow-up I'm going to do shows that once there's an approval, we go and check and see if you did what you said you were going to do, so that brings it full circle for how the process works.
Yes, because it was really disappointing that that article went out to the entire town based on speculation, based on never even attending a meeting, never checking with the chairman to find out how this board even works. So that's just disappointing. And now it's muddied water and could put the town at risk.
And it's law now too.
And it's law that could be muddy and put the town at risk.
So it's going in under 102.9 guidelines.
Yes. In the ordinances.
Yes.
And the other part I noticed, section 673:4, the appointing authority shall take into consideration, and this is how a historic district commissioner is appointed, the appointing authority shall take into consideration the appointee's demonstrated interest and ability to understand, appreciate, and promote the purposes of the historic district commission. So,
The other thing I pointed out in the letter I wrote was what resources we have for the applicant. That we have pictures of different styles of houses, colonial, Greek revival, etc. And then we have some examples of, this is a really bad idea on a Greek revival, this is a good idea, so it gives them some. And we have at least 10 resources in the library that we and anyone else can use. So we have our guidelines that give a lot of support. So the applicant really has good resources for making their plans. The other thing is they can come to us without an application and get some general information to give them direction. Okay, so this is 102.9 as guidelines. In considering appropriateness of an application, the commission shall consider, among other things, the exterior facade, looking at the surrounding buildings, change, if any, in noise, congestion, traffic, proposed use will create. Proposal is of design and materials, purpose inconsistent with, detrimental or injurious to buildings and purposes, etc., etc. So this is going to be D that says any making a determination, reasons for denial must be clearly documented. So 102.10, denial and appeal. In such cases, as the commission may deny an application, it shall supply the applicant and the Board of Adjustment with a letter citing the reasons for such denial. And in the regs, it's more specific about how that process has to go.
Okay.
So it's already in here.
That's what I mean, it's already here, we already do that.
Well, it's here now.
And so, and in regards to how we do things, I don't think we change anything that we already do.
Well, the one thing that occurred to me is that for those of us who have been doing this for many, many years and have experience with siding, you know, shingles, trim.
Yes.
And we're not pulling out books or asking for expert testimony. But the fact is that we've been doing it for many years, so we have experience under our belts. That might be perceived as giving our opinions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we do need to be careful that, because we, you know, we'll say, this fence rather than this fence, which is very subjective, right? But we've been in the historic district business for a while, and we know, you know, sort of through experience what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate.
So are you suggesting that when an applicant comes and we want to modify what they have proposed? I want to put a fence around my house, okay, and we want to say, what does the fence look like? And they give us what they want it to look like, and we'd like to modify that. And you're saying we need to do more work to show appropriate samples?
And that will take longer than just one evening of application. It will take longer, because we'll have the initial meeting with the applicant, and possibly have to have a continuance so that we can get some more expert documentation.
Right.
Because we couldn't just say that fence is not appropriate for the historic.
I guess we could, but we haven't. We did that with someone who had a vanity fence
Yes.
to cover a shed.
Yeah.
We did that, okay? And they showed us the vanity
Stockade fence.
fence to cover the shed. And we worked with them, and it took several sessions, but when we were all done, the applicant and us, we were satisfied with the results. It didn't cost them any more money, it just took a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah.
There's another thing I think that this makes me think we should bring up to the town attorney. Ellen Faulkner, who was the secretary for the planning board for years, always tried to get me as chair to run every application as a public hearing. So the planning board has public hearings for every application.
Okay.
They talk about a lot of different things, but if there's a formal application, they have, I think, like 2 a month or what, or they have a schedule for public hearings. They can discuss other business afterwards. And Ellen always tried to get me to run every application as a public hearing. I said that's gonna cost every applicant a lot of money who wants to just, put new steps and change the handrailing on the front of their house. They're going to have to pay for the ad in the newspaper, the cost to, notify all the abutters, et cetera. There's a significant cost to that. And now that mailing is up, the cost goes up because those have to be certified letters. And so I thought that that would hold the cost down for the applicant. But I think now with this, perhaps we need to ask the town attorney, should we indeed make every application part of a public hearing?
I can ask her, I have 2 notes now to ask her.
Okay, because, we could, there's no reason why we can't, it's just gonna take more time and cost more money for every applicant.
Right.
Just some ideas that were going through my head when I was surprised to see this, was voted in when the planning board didn't approve it, so.
And by a big margin.
Yes, a big margin.
Yeah. So, the discussion on that will probably, yeah, I'm gonna ask for your public comment in 1 second. We will, I'm sure, continue to feel our way through this new wordage and direction. And yes, now can we hear from the public? Please introduce yourself.
Scott Willett, 189 Main Street. Virginia, as you were saying that, I pulled out the ordinance. Take a look at 102.8.
0.8.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like there's 2 102.8s, and there's a numbering issue. The second 102.8, public hearings.
Oh, there is a little numbering issue there.
102.8 public hearings, and I think it gives flexibility. Like if the commission or the applicant, want a public hearing, great. And then it has the procedures on how to do it. But if you don't, if it's like you said, the handrail or the steps.
Right.
So it seems like it has some flexibility there today.
And what Ellen told me was that we don't have to, and we had looked at this, but she thought that was a safety measure for us. And then we made sort of an unwritten rule that if it was a public building or seemed to be a public building, Church on the Plains, for example, we held a public hearing when they put in their handicap ramp. The same with Congregational Church. If it's a brand new building, yes, we had public hearing for that. And then we held off on the new front steps.
Yeah, gives you some flexibility.
Right, so we did make those, and I know this is, gives us choices. But I don't know, that would be a good question, Susan, to ask to see if this is wiser for us to do that. Public hearing.
Did we have one when we put our addition on? I feel like it was a public meeting.
Did we have a public hearing? I don't know, I don't think we did.
It wasn't a public hearing, it was just a normal meeting?
Additions for the addition, windows, fence, the shed, and the playhouse.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those triggered a public hearing.
Okay, just people in the audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that we'll have to consider is who would these experts be that we would be required to come and testify. Yeah. So at this point, we really don't have a list of like so-called experts that, pool of experts to even.
We need a fence guy, all we have to do is go on the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance website, and they have a long list of experts.
Okay, good.
They do it.
Good.
But then we'll have to wait for their availability too, so that may really start saying.
Yes, that might,
NHDHR, the Department of Historical Resources probably has a similar list. And sometimes when I would go to those fairs, I'd pick up brochures of people who were experts on roofing or replacing or redoing windows or whatever. So they're there, but then there'll be another meeting and getting them to come and so forth.
Right. Yeah, it'll probably take some time to learn your way into it. I read that Article 12 like a dozen times. And every time I kept picking out some new word. So like in your example with the fence, and you worked with the applicant was receptive and cooperative.
Yes.
It almost sounds like the way it says, if you're gonna issue a denial, then you need to have the backup.
Yes.
But in this case, it wasn't a denial, it was like a cooperative thing, so.
Yes.
Maybe it's like, if it's cooperative, then you don't need the expert, but if it gets contentious,
Right.
then you need to bring in.
Then we need to continue the meeting and say, okay, we're gonna have to bring in an expert.
Yes,
Before it goes down to the.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott.
Luckily, that doesn't happen a lot here.
No, it doesn't. So in the past couple of months, I've also been reading through other New Hampshire towns' historic district ordinances and regulations. And some of the wording in them is a little more specific as far as, and I can't remember which town it was now, but it said in the decision-making process.
Oh.
You know, this, and this. So it's,
Okay.
that particular wording would, if you checked off those criteria, you would not be as apt to be accused of being subjective or opinionated. So if I can find those and write them down, it doesn't have to go into, I mean, it just.
It could go into our regulations, right?
It would just be a matter of how we run our business, our meetings. It doesn't even have to be voted on. It just has, we tighten up a little bit on how we make the decisions and do the approvals. So,
Yes.
yes.
So we have a list of criteria that we're looking at for things. In the past, of an example I think of, in the past, the artificial siding was vinyl siding, aluminum siding, went snap, crackle, pop in the heat, and they plastered it on right up to the edge of the windows. And then the company started to have some kind of molding around the windows. And then they actually got better to duplicate the actual molding that was there. And Christie's house, right on the edge of the historic district, was one of the first ones that said they took the pattern of the trim underneath the eave of the house, around the molding, around the window of that molding, and actually duplicated it by, I want to say extruding, only it wasn't probably, but they pressing it through and matching it.
Wow.
Right. So those kinds of things have gotten better and better, and those are the kinds of things you could discuss with someone who came in and just wanted to go, yes, and not keep the trim, and the fine features of a house that can give it the character that keeps it a traditional old house.
Yes.
So the end quoting on this Article 12 is, "This shall not prohibit the HDC from making additional recommendations to an applicant that are in the spirit of the historic district, asking for voluntary compliance and participation." That's more of what we do anyway than deny. We work with the applicants to find the best solution. Right. So far that's been my experience here anyway.
But some of it's not voluntary, so some of it's voluntary.
Right.
We suggest this, but you don't have to. But some of it's not voluntary. If it's in the ordinance, that it can't be like this or it has to be like that. And if people read some of the historic district ordinances in other towns, they'd find that I was pretty lenient compared to some other towns.
Seriously lenient.
So there's so much misinformation in which people say, I don't want you to tell me what color to paint my house. We never knew to go. whereas I think it's Exeter, right? Yes, Exeter has a list of, classic colors and the period of your house, and those are the ones you have to stick to.
Durham has to do with removing one or more trees of a certain diameter. Really? Yeah, trees. So, I mean, it's not that we're lenient, we just are focused on different things. Right. So, do we have any other things to discuss tonight? We don't at this point.
I was going to ask about procedures.
Okay.
Well, partially because that came up, so that was going to be, how was that going to be put in place with what we do today, but I think we already do it. But we do need to ask the attorney to make sure. Oh, it was about when an application comes in, there's so much confusion, and this is going to be discussed with the attorney. But it says in our procedures in 102.8, upon obtaining an application, the applicant should supply the information relative to such application as may be required by the HDC. No building permit shall be issued for work proposed to be done in the historic district until the commission has approved the application. And it says it starts the commission shall make a decision within 45 days of receipt of an application, so we need to make sure if it's going to be a big one, that we start a time clock, or the failure to do so will be deemed to constitute an approval by the commission within said period, the commission shall. So the first thing, no matter what application comes in, it needs to come in and the commission needs to determine that the application is of no interest to the purpose of the historic districts, or that the proposal is harmonious with the purpose of the districts, and so notify the applicant. So no matter what it is, we have to look at whatever the application, like if it's, somebody says, I don't know, they need a sign, we can't just blow it off and say, well, we're not looking at it. I think they all have to come here and we have to vote as a commission that it does or doesn't qualify. And then we can say, okay, it's good, we've voted, but you don't need to do anything. And I'm just from this. That's what it sounds like from A on 102.8.
So that's why, Maddie, to stop here, that's why it says you have to submit the application a certain amount ahead of time, at which time either the chair or vice chair looks at it and says, this is great, it's complete, let's come ahead next month. Or, I'm sorry, this is missing some key components. You'll need to have this information for us before we deal with it. So, I think the planning board, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, says they take jurisdiction over an application. So you're sort of taking that role. You take jurisdiction over it, you say this is complete enough, we'll move forward. If you say no when it comes into you, the 45 days does not start. We have not taken jurisdiction over it yet because it's missing whatever.
Yes, yeah,
Right, okay. Yes, we have to vote that we've taken jurisdiction as a commission, I believe. Is that right, Scott?
I don't know that we have to vote on it by letting them come to the meeting. Somewhere I read that it was the role of the chair or the vice chair to look at that application and say it is complete enough to deal with. She's not going to say, I'm going to deny it or approve it. That, of course, she's not going to do, but say it's complete enough to present.
I think that means it comes because this says the commission shall make a decision within 45 days of receipt. So I think you have to determine whether they can come and start the meeting. If they haven't given you an application, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't constitute, and then we vote and make sure everyone's in agreement that we have everything that we need.
Okay?
Some of this language in 102.8 is repeated in the regulations. And I swear I saw a phrase that said, the 45-day clock doesn't start until your application is considered complete. So like you said, it's not giving enough stuff, go back and the clock doesn't start. But once you say, okay, now you give me a complete application, then the clock starts.
right.
So extend it if they need to.
So Maddie, you're saying the commission, and I'm saying, I can't put my finger on where I read that the chair or vice chair may say, I deem this complete, come to the meeting. And when they come to the meeting, it starts the 45 days.
That's when they're making their application. That's when they're applying for, they're coming in for review.
Well, I think, like, in years past, there was some time where people were coming to the meeting and we didn't have, like, anything. So I feel like they meet with you to get the application fulfilled, because then they come and then we still need so much stuff from you. So we send them away and they're like, we want the answer today. Like, we don't have everything. So that's why I feel like it goes to you to say, like, we still don't have everything, and then we vote to say, yes, it's complete, let's start the clock.
I felt that was a failure on my part to be tough enough on what the application looked like. I really did. And that's why we added extra days in here and have been more consistent on saying, we have to see it. You can't walk in the door with it for the first time and expect that we're gonna take action on it. Right. People do call up and beg at the last minute. Well, you know, the curtain is
It's gonna be
here.
like this, it's gonna be peaked, and the addition's gonna be like, we need to see a drawing to scale.
Well, what I've explained to applicants is that, you know, it's a waste of everybody's time to get put on the agenda to find there are big chunks of information missing, be sent home and put on the agenda next time.
Right.
And it's frustrating for everybody. So it's a process where, you know, an application will come to either Virginia or myself. We'll look through it, and there's, you know, we're not perfect. There's always that little thing in the back of your mind that's like, what am I missing? What, you know, what more could we be?
That's why I was saying that if you brought it, and we think, oh wait, we're still missing something.
Right, right, because it's always, you know, right windows or.
Yeah, oh, I didn't think of that.
Right, and when I was first chair, I would send it over to Virginia and say, what am I missing? I'm new to this, you know?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of cooperation there.
This is one of the reasons to have a public hearing, because if the applicant, if a decision can't be made at that meeting, you can have a continuation, which stretches the clock. I wonder if you can have a continuation if it's just a public meeting. I can ask of, can you have a continuation of that 45 days if components of it are not either met or agreed upon?
Scott, what is your experience on the planning board? If you've accepted jurisdiction and then you have a continuance, is the clock still ticking for the 45 days?
There is a clock ticking.
It's still ticking, or does it start again?
Theirs is longer. Because.
No, but if it was, let's say it was 45, just, if you, once you accept it, even if you go to a continuance, does it stay, it's already starting to tick away?
Clock starts.
All right, so then we wouldn't want to do that.
Their clock is longer, but it's the same idea.
Right.
And then it's the really complicated ones, you get to a point to say, listen, we're out of time. You know, the board still has questions or unopened. We can vote right now.
But we're gonna turn it down.
Yeah, so would you like us to continue? The applicant says, yes, let's continue. So then that's how it gets extended.
Okay, so they're extending it, but.
Yeah, it's a cooperative thing.
So
That's a good question, if we're, even if it's a public meeting, not a public hearing, and we can see that it's going to take more than 45 days, we can say, we'll decide tonight, because in 2 days, the 45 days will be up. We'll decide tonight. Would you like us to decide tonight, or would you like to give us more time and put that on the record? Then we can have more time. I think we probably should be careful to do that.
Yes.
And if they see the writing on the wall, that we're going to say no, they're probably going to say, okay, I'll give you some more time. Right.
And then we need to come up with the expert testimony too, if we say no. Because what they just.
that's right, then we'll have to.
Another.
Yep.
What a nightmare.
But I also have to say, even though the procedure about we should have a full application, we have been so good about having people come in and say, well, I'm thinking about this, and we've worked with them.
Yeah.
So,
I would love if that trend continued.
yes.
Because a lot of really great ideas come from those working sessions.
Yep.
Anything else? It's all work in process, isn't it? It is.
I was going to ask about, are we done with procedures?
You can continue if you want. I'm just moving along.
I was going to ask about microphones. Just because it has been so hard to hear in the meetings, and if you watch the video later, it's like blah, 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 blah. You can't, you're just like, what did they say? I don't know if we're just not sitting close enough to these, or if we need them like really close.
I don't know, but I thought that the selectmen had spent a significant amount of money upgrading this, and yet, well, candidates night, though that mic evidently wasn't even on, you can hear them.
Yeah.
The candidates who were speaking did not have their mic on, so you couldn't hear them. And, I'm sorry? Yeah, the moderator's mic was on, but you couldn't hear the candidates. And then the public hearing that we went to on the 21st of February, when you went to listen again, you really couldn't understand anyone. But I think that's just an issue for us to bring up with the selectmen.
I couldn't understand it, and I was in the audience.
That's what I was going to say too.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know, Scott, does this make it sound any better if I get closer to the mic? Can you hear it better, or is it still garbled?
Yeah, I could hear all you guys tonight, but I don't know if it's coming out of the microphones or it's just, you guys are speaking up and it's clear. But yeah, Susan, I was listening as hard as I could.
I couldn't hear.
I'll play it back on the TV and I'll just turn the volume. It was even worse.
It was worse. It was worse, yeah.
So that's something to,
They were gonna put something on the ceiling to make the acoustics a little better.
Well, they haven't done it, and you really cannot hear if you watch on TV. You watch these publicized, recorded meetings, we can't hear.
But it's such an echo.
But, yeah. Even just in the audience, it's so bad. It's so bad when you're live.
Yeah, when you're sitting right here. If someone doesn't speak very loudly, or some people continue to wear their hats, you can't hear a thing they say.
Right, and if they sit back in their chair, they're done. You can't hear them.
I'm hoping it's just a setting, because it was working before, without any changes to the room.
Those mics work better when we have them closer.
Yeah, it was working at one time. If we upgraded, it should be like a setting of, some volume or feedback is a little too high or something.
So the only other thing I have was, we need members. We need members.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
now, I have a question. It occurred to me that we've been racking our brains trying to find people, to volunteer to, sit on this board, but it's actually the selectmen appoint people, right?
Yes.
So are the selectmen actively looking for, I know that Ellie Leslie put a note in, is it on Facebook or in the paper? I think it was both, probably.
It's on the website too.
Yeah, saying that there are boards in town looking for.
Yep, it's out there.
So I don't know if there are other ways.
I was trying to actively recruit the two applicants tonight.
Oh, really?
But maybe that's a way to say, hey, at the end, if you're interested, consider being on the board, serving a term.
Putting a sticky note on everyone's certificate. If you enjoyed your experience with HDC, please consider joining us. We're supposed to have a lot more members, you're right.
And they do need to have historic, they want to be part of the historic, they don't want, not just to be on a board, they should have that kind of background.
Yes, they do not need to live in HD1 or HD2.
Right.
And some people don't know that either. They can live anywhere in town, they just have to show interest.
Yes, support the historic.
Yes.
And there's plenty of old houses outside the districts.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, when you were saying about the Heritage Commission, you know, kind of working with the Heritage Commission for the art campaign, I had a thought in my head. So what if the Heritage Commission went and talked to the applicants after the fact, like an independent survey? How was your experience? How did it go? By the way, would you like to be in the group? That might be a way to kind of like, you know, give us some feedback.
Why not? Some people may not have even thought of it. They're really busy replacing their windows, but they would be very willing to make a comment. Yes. About, to give feedback, or maybe they never considered being on the board, so.
And it's not a life sentence either, I mean, it's a one-year term.
They serve a, you know, 3-year term, and get everyone in the district to come take a 3-year term.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Anyways.
All right, so let's actively keep that on our front burners then.
Those were the big 3 items I had.
Thank you, all valid, thank you. And if that is all, then I would like to close the meeting, okay? Okay. Adam, if you're listening, 8:06. That's right. The meeting has ended at 8:06 p.m. Meeting ended. We are not going to talk about the meeting that is tomorrow. But I am going to ask if Stanley's going to come. Stanley, are you planning to attend at 2:30? Okay. And you got my note that said if you have questions, please write them down.